Oh, you meant the death? Oh, yeah, probably. How does LotRO and differ from one another? Pretty much everything. So, it's really funny. There's the idea that Lord of the Rings Online and DDO are built. They use the same engine. There's a grain of truth to that, which is to say that they are both based off of the Asheron's Call engine. But, be outside of that, the similarities kind of disappear almost immediately. So, the Lord of the Rings Online is a game that is most similar to a game like World of Warcraft, where you walk in and you start playing, and there's areas and quests, and you do the quests, and then you go to a town, and the guy says, "Oh, dearie me, there's some orcs, and they're attacking us. Do you think you could go kill some of the orcs?" And you talk to another dude in town, he says, "Oh, the orcs. They've got too many weapons, and we're out of supplies. Can you steal some of those orc weapons for us?" And you talk to another guy, and they're like, "Oh, and we also need their food. We're out of orc food, or we even though the food is bad and it's orc food, we need to get some of it." And then you talk to another guy, and they go, "We need tactics to be able to overcome them. When you killed the orcs, do you think you could pick up some of their battle plans, so that way we know what they're doing? Because they would clearly write that down. They're orcs." Then you go to the camp, you kill the guys, you pick up the weapons, you pick up the food, you pick up the battle plans, and you go back to town, and the guy goes, "Oh, that's great. Now that we have these battle plans, we know that their leaders are Arschlag, Gerstag, and Jimjar. So please go to camp and kill them." And then you talk to the other guy, and they're like, "Oh, wow. After recovering those weapons, we now can make a real assault. But some of our soldiers are captured. Can you go to that same camp and free the captured soldiers?" And you talk to the other guy, and he's like, "Oh, well, now that you got us food, maybe you should spoil theirs. There's a water supply that's just nearby. So you should poison the water supply so they have to move." And you talk to the other guy, and he's like, "Oh, well, you killed so many orcs. It's great. Can you now do this other random task?" And you're like, "Okay, cool." So you go back to the camp, you kill the different leaders, you poison the water supply, you do all this other crap. Okay, it's great. And you move on, you come back, handle all the quests, and they go, "Hey, thank you for doing all this stuff. There's a cosmetically similar camp that's nearby. And at that cosmetically similar camp, they're going to ask you for help with a very cosmetically similar orc camp. Can you please go handle those problems?" And you're like, "Yeah, no problem." And you go do it. And that's the general gameplay feel, okay? That is the Lord of the Rings Online in a nutshell. That is also World of Warcraft. That is also Final Fantasy XIV. That is literally those three games in a nutshell, almost identically. Like to the T. That's the general combat flow. Then there's like endgame where there's like dungeons and stuff, but the leveling experience is like that. DDO is not quite exactly like that. Dungeons & Dragons Online is all instances. So, holy guacamole, Hydra drops in 5 gifted subs right now. So in DDO, it's all instanced. So the dungeon that you would do in World of Warcraft, or not World of Warcraft, yeah, in World of Warcraft or Lord of the Rings, is now the entirety of DDO. There is no landscape where you're running around. Like, technically there are explorer zones, but that's not where the experience points actually come from. It's all the instanced combat and instant zones that come in between all these areas. Which makes it a little bit more complicated because now your character is, like, everything is always a dungeon all the time. So that's really, really cool. That story that I just told you about the town and whatever, and they're telling you this thing. Instead, in DDO, you'll have some guy, and he'll be like, "Hey, I have a problem. See that smoke in the distance? Yeah, that's my house. The orcs are trying to burn my entire farm down. I need you to help me by clearing them out. Can you go clear them out?" And then you have to fight your way through this gorge and this ravine. You get all the way to the end to find that there's an orc boss, and you kill the orc boss, and you put out the fire, but then the orc boss strolls in, and he's like, well, look at this guy who came here to put out the fire," and you kill him, and it's over. Or like this dungeon, Tear of Deccan, where you have to, like, essentially invade the stronghold underground. It's all dungeon-esque, because it's Dungeons & Dragons Online. So that's in terms of general gameplay mechanics. As well, this game is not entirely designed to be solo. It currently is very soloable, and on the normal difficulty, is straightforward and very easy to solo with, okay? So this is not me saying you can't solo your way through this game. You literally can 100%. But it's not designed like that. This game originally was designed to be a game you play with groups of people. You play with your friends or with strangers. The entire game is built around an in-game grouping system where you're supposed to interact with other people and collect for groups, which is what I'm currently doing with people who are here. And so that's why I have people just entering my party, these other human beings that are in here that I type to sometimes, but the messages are behind the camera, so where I'm waving my hand here is where the messages actually go. You just can't see it in case people decide to type stuff that's TOS into the chat box and want it to show up on stream. So with that being said, keep that in mind that That's one aspect where it's different. But then you actually have the combat. In Lord of the Rings and all those other games, there are games where you auto-attack stuff, and you have a skill bar where you use your skills. In DDO, you attack stuff. I'm clicking here, which is causing me to attack. I'm just attacking the air. So if I want to fight this guy, I use my trip attack. Go behind him. Boom. Try to dodge all this. The game is very three-dimensional. It actually has collision. So in a game like Lord of the Rings, if I'm playing my hunter and I click a bow skill, my bow skill will always hit the enemy because that's literally how it works. Like whether the enemy has a parry effect or a block effect or a dodge effect, that's a percentage chance based on the character. But the actual like projectile itself will make contact because there's no like hit detection or physics in those types of video games. It just does work. Versus in DDO, it uses a physics engine. So if a monster shoots an arrow at you and you sidestep it, you don't get hit. Then if it does hit you, it has to beat your armor class, or you can have a chance to dodge it with the dodge mechanic that's in the game. So there actually is a lot of like actual physical hit detection. You can avoid monster attacks by jumping over their heads. So it's very, very interesting in terms of its implementation of physics and other types of mechanics, and it makes it much more of an action game than it does an MMO, or at least especially in the traditional sense. And it's also very three-dimensional. My character has a high dodge chance. Look, or jump. Look at me jump over top of this troll. What a guy. Guy can't hit straight up because he's a troll of some kind. He's not able to do it. Game designer said no. So again, because it makes it much more like an action game, it gives it more of an action-y feel. Like, look at these things. What are you going to do? Rust monsters attack me? Oh, they can't. Look, they can't even hit me because I'm jumping over top of them. They're just spinning around. Okay, that one hit me. So it's kind of neat. Also, the monsters are way more specific than in other games. So in Lord of the Rings Online, the monster type really doesn't matter. It determines what attacks it does, but you can do whatever you want to it. If I'm playing, Guardian and I use Shield Smash to stun the monster, it doesn't matter what the monster is in front of me, I always stun it. Is it a slug? Is it an undead? Is it a troll? Is it an orc? Is it a regular human? Doesn't matter what it is. If I stun it, I stun it. That's it. In DDO, the game says, no, it's a construct. It's a robot. It doesn't have, you can't stun it because it doesn't have like organs or a nervous system. Oh, this undead? You can't stun an undead. They don't have a nervous system. Oh, this is an ooze? You can't stun it. It doesn't have a nervous system. And you're like, oh, physical properties of monsters. Okay. So monsters have immunities all over the place, resistant. They're like 100% resistance to all sorts of effects. It makes the game interesting and deep. And then lastly is the actual characters themselves. In a lot of MMOs, you pick a character, you pick a race, you pick your class, and you start playing the game. In DDO, you pick a class, you pick a race, then you pick your base stats, then you pick where your skills go. Your skills are based off your base stats. Then you pick feats, which improve aspects about your character. And then every time you level up, you get to change your class if you want. So this character is 7 rogue and 3 favored soul. Imagine if you could do that in Lord of the Rings Online. Be like 40 hunter, 40 champion, 50 guardian. It wouldn't make any sense within the context of that game, but yeah, that's it. So that's kind of the big difference. People ask me that all the time. What is the difference between Lord of the Rings and Dungeons & Dragons Online and anything else? There's really no way to make a comparison between DDO and a lot of other MMOs, which is not necessarily a good thing, by the way. I'm not sitting here and telling you that there's literally like, oh, it's because it's so good and it's so unique and like honestly, it's like the best game ever. I like this game and it's my favorite for all of the reasons that I stated. But these also come with negative implications. Like the fact that you can customize and create any character you want and can combine any of the classes and use any of the stats means there is a layer of complexity that some people aren't going to like. On top of that, it also means you have the option to brick your character. Just like Path of Exile and Diablo, not Diablo 3, but Diablo 2, where you can allocate your own skill points and allocate whatever you want. You might allocate away, and then realize, ooh, my character sucks, and you hit a brick wall, and then you have to make a new one. That is an issue, and that is something that does happen in DDO, where you literally hit a brick wall because you realize your character sucks, and you have to start over again. Now, granted, there's a lot of really good guides out there made by this cool guy named Strimtom, who can teach you all about how to play the video game. So you can go to youtube.com/Strimtom for some fun guides, or check out my build repository, which is in the link of every single YouTube video I post. It's also below the live stream, and it's ! builds in chat if you want to see all of those. So those are all great options, but it does give you the mechanical sense where you can feel really good about the character that you're playing. You know, you can feel really positive and say, well, this is my character build. I made it. I came up with these ideas, and I think this will work. And it has a really deep sense of set of mechanics that allows you to try play the character that you want to do. So yeah, it does. It gives you a lot of flexibility, but you know, with great power comes great. Oh no! 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 Get up! 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 Fuck! I'm dead. No!